Hi, welcome to SBR Sports Picks. I'm Peter Loshak. This is the Into the Weekend with BetDSI show for Week 4 in the NFL. Of course, we are talking with Brent, the headlines manager at DSI Sportsbook, finding out all the notable sharp and public action he's taken in the NFL over the week. And last week, the sharps in the NFL, unbelievable 7-1 against the spread in the picks you told us they were on last week. Huge week for the sharps last week. When the sharps do well like that in the NFL, is that good for you or bad for you? Because you do have to pay out all those bets, right, Brent?
Yeah, I mean, we have to pay out all those bets, and generally speaking, they're, big money bets these guys that we're paying out as well. But no, I mean, actually last weekend was quite a good weekend for us. I mean, if you look at the big upsets, if you will, Buffalo was a classic case where they were a huge dog, and the public was just so much into Arizona, they just kept counting. It didn't matter. I mean, sharps were in on Buffalo even like +5 and +4.5 even on game day, and that line still closed like 5 and 5.5 because everyone's just all over Arizona. And it's a case where people say, well, if the sharps told you they're Buffalo was the right side, why to keep moving line up? And it's kind of like the situation like with Kramer on the bus. Well, they keep ringing the bell. Well, they just kept on betting Arizona, so you keep on moving the money. And there are public guys with what you used to term the oil money who kept just keep on betting, and you have to respect the money because the money still counts no matter who it comes from. I want to mention the Philadelphia game as well because that was fantastic for us. I mean, that was a huge play. The sharps did come in on Philadelphia, and they were even taking the Eagles +4, and that line as well closed 4. And why? It's just because everyone was pounding the heck out of Pittsburgh. So those two games were really, really big for us last week. And I mean, we gave a big chunk back with the Cowboys and the Bears game on Sunday night. The Bears just kind of didn't. They looked good for stretches of the game, but not the whole game, and unfortunately that didn't get the job done. So those two games, though, looking at the Buffalo win at home over Arizona and also the Philadelphia win as a dog over Pittsburgh, those were really huge for us last week.
Right, oil money, keeping this industry chugging along. All right, Brent, let's see what the sharps are on this week. The first game I want to ask you about is Denver at Tampa Bay. Now, this one, when this line came out, I said to myself, this might be a candidate for a notable sharp public split, but the line actually hasn't moved much, so maybe there hasn't been any notable sharp action on this game. I'm assuming the public is all over Denver, though, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this kind of, when that line comes out, you kind of scratch your head and like, what's going on here? Is something I'm missing? Because you just get the feeling that Denver should be a bigger favorite. But they were like -3, -115. We're kind of 3 flat. Yesterday actually Denver was -3, dog 15 even. And I actually did get sharp money on Tampa Bay. I mean, sometimes you have to expect good things from bad teams, and that's the case this weekend with Tampa Bay at home, 1-2 against the 3-0 the Broncos. But if you're looking at my wager count, it's almost like 6-1 in favor of Denver, which is really quite strong. But my money is not too bad. It actually favors, if I count parlays and teasers and everything my money's almost dead even on this game. If I count the straight bets, I actually have more Tampa Bay money. So the sharps clearly like Tampa Bay. Now that sharp action came in +3 even money, and also have sharp money on the total as well, the under 44. We're sitting at 43 right now, and again, it was only a 1-point move, and you might say only a 1-point move off a sharp bet. So we went from 44 to 43, but again, talking like wager count, I'm almost like 4-1 in terms of the count of bets I've taken on the over. So the public's betting the over as they do, sharps are on the under, and sharps are on the home dog as well.
All right, so there is a sharp public split, but we haven't seen a line move yet. Wouldn't you, if there was a big sharp public split here, wouldn't you expect to see at least like, I don't know, +3, -120, or even down to 2.5?
Well, it did go from -3 to the Tampa Bay was +3 -115, and the sharps did come in +3 even money. So I mean that's they moved basically 15 cents, which is enough in a case like this because you just know you're going to get Denver money nonstop.
Yeah.
I mean, the count tells me that now. So, I mean, sometimes you sit back and you say, I've got a little bit more money on Tampa Bay right now, but if I don't need to move any harder, why should I move any harder? So right now, we're going to sit where we are. We're going to let the public bet Denver like they're going to. When our money, when our chart evens out, we'll probably take a look and say, where do we go from here? And then wait to see if more sharps come in on the game. But right now, it's just one sharp involved on Tampa Bay, +3 even money.
All right, there's a sharp public split in Denver, Tampa Bay. It's also a game with a Mike Brenner, Peter Loshak split. Not a surprise, I'm on the sharp side in that one. We'll see how it turns out. My partner and I, though, are both liking Oakland this week, and that was a sharp side last week. The sharps were all over Oakland, and of course that one cashed fairly easily. And they, when this line opened, I understand there's the time zone thing, and they're playing at 10 a.m. Pacific time, but I was a little bit surprised to see Oakland as big of a dog as they were. I'm wondering if the sharps are liking Oakland again this week.
Yeah, it's weird. Like, I mean, you look at Baltimore as a favorite as they are, and it's the strangest thing is you look at that division and they're on top at 3-0. It's just like, really, like when did that happen? You know, you look a little further in terms of who Baltimore played. Maybe the quality of the opposition has people saying, well, maybe they're not quite a 3-0 team. I mean, they did beat Buffalo. That was at home. They went and beat Cleveland. They barely escaped Cleveland. I believe that was an overtime game, and they beat Jacksonville. I mean, so it's like, okay, come on, maybe they had a little favorable scheduling for sure. But yeah, I do have sharp action in on this game, and that money did come in on Oakland. Now, right now we're using Baltimore is -3.5, -05. So Oakland is +3.5, -115. The sharp action that came in on Oakland was +4, -05. So they got the better number and they got the better juice as well. Now, if I look at my wager count, I mean, we talked about early in the season how even in futures markets and things of that nature that a lot of people did like Oakland and we're getting a lot of support. So the public is, kind of favoring Oakland as well. They're not shy on betting on them. My wager count on straight bets is almost 2-1 right now, favoring Oakland. Parlays and teasers is pretty much even. I mean, people like, the home team like Baltimore, for example, -3.5. You do like a 6.5, 7-point teaser. You get them +7.5 or +3.5 at home. It's kind of like, I think it's more teasers driving the Baltimore count in terms of the parlays and teaser stuff. But in terms of sharp action, definitely Oakland +4, -05, and my wager count almost 2-1 that way as well.
So you got sharp and public, the sharps and public going the same way. That's not a good situation for you, right? That would make you think that the opening number was a little bit wrong, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think people are reading into the strength of schedule as well, or in terms of the teams Baltimore has played so far, and kind of suggesting maybe they're just not quite as good as the 3-0 team that they are on paper. That's for sure. We're gonna find out game day, and long term, yes, the sharps are on Oakland, but if we have to drop down to 3, and you're looking at a 3-point home favorite in Baltimore, we might be comfortable with that position.
All right, and then the last game I want to ask about, the Sunday night game, KC and Pittsburgh. Big bounce back spot for Pittsburgh. Feels to me like it would be a big public play here on Pittsburgh. I know the public was on Pittsburgh last week and they got burned. I'm guessing they'd come back and bet them again here. Is that the case?
Absolutely, positively, yeah. I've got a wager count of almost 2-1 in favor of Pittsburgh. They're sitting as a 4.5-point home favorite right now to Kansas City. The early line, though, sharp action that I did take on this game, once again, was on Kansas City, the dog there. Kansas City +6, -05 was the sharp action. Now, line's all the way down to 4.5. And again, counting my parlays and teasers and stuff like that and everything, the money's pretty much even. If I just look at straight bets, I definitely have more Kansas City money. And again, it's because of the bigger hits that we take with the sharp action for sure. So Kansas City +6, -05 was sharp.
Those were list guys. That was a list guy on KC?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
That's not a good sign. My partner and I are both on Pittsburgh -5 in this one.
Well, hey, nobody said that. No, just because you're not on the list, Peter, doesn't mean that you're not sharp.
That's right. Just wait till I increase my bankroll just a little bit, and maybe I will make that list one of these days. All right, Brent. So the sharps are on KC. Any other notable action from that game?
Yeah, I just want to talk about the Chicago Bears Detroit Lions game, just because there's ton of action on this game. We're sitting Detroit as a road favorite right now, -3, -115. Now, yesterday at this very same time, Detroit was -3 even money. So the lines moved from the Bears -120 to -120 to -05 now, and Detroit from -15 to even money. It's kind of a big move in terms of the money, and I do have two-way sharp action on this game. I just want to mention it because we took sharp action on the Bears +3, -110, and the line went to I think it was -120, and the sharps did come back on Detroit +3 even money. So just one of those games where it's the interdivision game, stuff like that, and kind of two teams that are kind of ugly on paper at least, but I've got really good action on that game, just high volume, and sharps both ways on that game. So I just want to mention that.
All right, nice. All right, so overall on the year so far in the reported sharp plays from you, Brent, the sharps are 13-4 ATS. That's awesome. You've already told us that the sharps have hit Tampa Bay, Oakland, and KC. Is there any other notable action you can share with us from NFL Week 4?
Unfortunately, Washington is sharp, and I say unfortunately because how are we going to get any money back on Cleveland? I don't know. If you look at Washington, I mean they're kind of one of those teams that people are still trying to figure out, maybe trying to figure themselves out. They are 1-2 overall, but you know how that division goes. I mean you're never really out of it when you're it's like at the end of the season it's like 8-8 kind of wins you the division title some years. So I did take sharp action on Washington and Cleveland. Their offense, I know everyone knows they're missing a whole lot of people. They They've got a couple of defensive backs now that are cornerbacks that are questionable. And Washington, if you look at the numbers they put up a lot of yards and stuff like that. They just haven't converted to wins yet. So I say unfortunate for us that I took sharp action on Washington. That came in at -7, -115 yesterday. My money is almost 2-1 in favor of them right now. So, I guess Cleveland, when the line was like real high when they opened it up. We're talking like 9.5 and 10 and stuff like that. They got a little bit of respectable money on Cleveland just because the number was just so high. But when it got down to 7, it was definitely a sharp play on Washington, -7, -115. So we're going to need some oil money to come back on the Browns, but I'm not going to hold my breath on that. You might see this line move. So Washington's a definite sharp play. We talked about Oakland +4, -05, Tampa Bay +3 even money, Tampa Bay Denver under 44, and Kansas City, and that's basically all the sharp action I have. You touched on 3 games that we had sharp action on, and not a whole lot more than that. Stinky game. It's funny you talk about this game in London, England. It's like, I don't know if Jacksonville's played there like 4 years in a row or something like that. I don't know if that's going to give them an advantage at some point, but wow, it's like every year the games over in England seem to be dogs.
Yeah, so this is the 4th week in a row that you've taken sharp action on Washington. They cashed last week, but the first 2 weeks they lost. Same deal with Minnesota, right? So the Sharps were also in Minnesota the first 3 weeks, but not this week as yet.
No, not as of yet. Yeah, no, it's. It's interesting, that line. Like, I don't know. I just like it opened up like minus. I think it was like -3. That line opened up, and I just thought it was a little bit low. I mean, you're telling me that on a neutral field, that game is a pick 'em, Minnesota and the Giants. But I mean, maybe the Giants are a little better than they think, and Minnesota. I mean, the thing is too, like, you look at Minnesota and look at like situations where maybe they're going to be looking ahead to something or fall off flat. That's the only thing I can kind of think of why that line was a little bit low. You're looking at the season so far for Minnesota. And last week they played at Carolina, came up with a big win, and the week before that they beat Green Bay at home. So in terms of emotionally, those are like 2 huge wins for them. And at some point you're gonna come up flat. But Monday Night Football is probably not the spot where you're gonna come up flat at home. So I don't know. It's just kind of like, I understand why the line was 3 in terms of you might be expecting a little bit of a letdown from them. And I think the Giants are a decent defensive team, decent all around. I think. But I just kind of thought it was kind of low when initially, and then when you look at the possible letdown and stuff like that from Minnesota, but. Then you go back to the fact they're out on Monday Night Football. It's kind of like, huh. Now, I mentioned that was a -3 that Minnesota opened up. Now the line's -5, a -115 on Minnesota right now. So I've got a lot of public money all over the Vikings, which is maybe no surprise, because they're probably thinking square like me, where why was that line so low? So I just want to mention that because my wager count's almost like 2-1 in favor of Minnesota. My money is about 3-1 in favor of Minnesota right now. So just something to watch for. If that line keeps getting driven up and eventually comes back down, it'll probably be sharp money coming back on the Giants. Yeah. As of right now, it's mostly public money on Minnesota. So
that's what I was going to ask you about. If we see this one drop to a 4.5 or 4, or God forbid even 3.5, definitely that's almost certainly sharp action, right?
No, for sure. Not almost certainly. Yeah. Certainly. Take it to the bank.
Brent from BetDSI, thanks so much once again. As always, we'll talk to you next week for NFL Week 5.
Research before you bet. Be sure to check out SBR Picks for the best game predictions, breakdowns, and much, much more.